Welcome back to EDT News. Today we'll be talking about Ebola in Africa.
Ebola, known previously as Ebola hemorrhagic fever, is an infection caused by a rare and deadly virus. Humans can be infected by other humans if they come in contact with body fluids from an infected person or contaminated objects. Ebola can infect human and non-human primates like monkeys or gorillas. The disease causes severe bleeding, organ failure, brain damage, vomiting, and other major side effects.
The Ebola outbreak in West Africa was first reported in March 2014 and rapidly became the deadliest occurrence of the disease since its discovery in 1976. The 2014-2015 outbreak killed nearly 5 times more people than every other Ebola outbreak combined. On January 13, 2016, the World Health Organization declared Liberia the last country to be affected Ebola-free. For a country to be considered Ebola-free, 42 days have to have passed without any new reported cases.
Continue tuning in tonight for more information about this deadly disease.
Hello and welcome back. Our next segment is about Ebola's effect on Africa. The Ebola crisis had a negative impact on the western part of the continent.
Yes, Taylor. Ebola had a huge impact on the economy of many countries in West Africa. Many foreigners went back to their home countries because of this outbreak. Major projects were paused because of Ebola. For example, Chinese contractor China Henan was in the middle of constructing a road between Liberia and Guinea, expected to help with trade, but had stalled that project because of this outbreak.
Before the outbreak, trade within West Africa was beginning to increase due to the effects of the government and facilities to move goods and services. But certain countries like Senegal and Ghana closed their borders and banned travel by airlines to the most affected countries. African hotel companies also experienced a 30% decline in customers during this time.
Agricultural production experienced a great decline, especially with cocoa. West Africa supplies the world with about 70% of its cocoa. The World Bank estimates that the Liberian economy declined by $113 million as a result of the crisis, as well as Sierra Leone by $95 million and Guinea by $120 million.
The people were affected as well. Many contracted the disease or had loved ones die from it. Families and friends weren't able to see each other. People couldn't touch or hug each other, and schools and markets closed, all because of this deadly disease.
Almost 29,000 people contracted the disease during the 2014-2015 Ebola outbreak.
Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea had the most cases of this deadly disease. There were over 10,000 cases in Liberia, over 14,000 in Sierra Leone, and nearly 4,000 in Guinea.
Liberia was reported to have had the worst hit by this disease. More than 4,800 people had died and nearly 10,700 were infected. The World Health Organization said that at the peak of the transmission during August and September 2014, Liberia was reported between 300 and 400 new cases each week.
On January 14, 2016, about 11,315 people have been reported to have died from Ebola in 6 different countries: 4,809 in Liberia, 3,955 in Sierra Leone, 2,536 in Guinea, 8 in Nigeria, 6 in Mali, and 1 in the United States. These numbers are considered underestimates because there's no way to know for sure how many people died, because many have not received medical attention.
Now we bring you a story about an Ebola survivor whose name is Salome Karwa. Now to you, Emmy.
Go.
Thanks, Dima. Salome Karwa was a nursing student in Liberia. Ebola took the life of her mother, father, brothers, aunts, uncles, and cousins. But somehow, Karwa, her sister, and her fiancé managed to survive the disease. After recovering, Karwa decided to go back to the hospital where she had been treated to help others, because once you've overcome the disease, you become forever immune to it. She was one of the only people at the hospital who could comfort the sick with hands-on touch. She spoon-fed the elderly and rocked babies to sleep. Karwa was named the Time Person of the Year in 2014 due to her determination to help Ebola patients while much of the world fled in fear.
That's amazing. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention works with the U.S. Government agencies like the World Health Organization to help contain this deadly disease. The CDC also sent teams of medical experts to West Africa. For the most part, Ebola in West Africa has been controlled. Although there may be some cases here and there, and there are certain countries that are still affected by this, they now have the tools and experience to help prevent a big breakout of this disease.
Something many people don't take into consideration is if Ebola should still be seen as a threat today.
Many believe yes, because although certain countries have been declared Ebola-free, there can still be random outbreaks of Ebola in an area.
Actually, disease specialists at the EcoHealth Alliance has reason to believe that there may be a possible future Ebola outbreak. This should be seen as a problem to the whole world. Due to international travel, viruses spread very fast, and depending on the virus, it can happen very easily.
Yes, but Western countries that were most affected by this disease have been under good surveillance to ensure that anyone who gets this disease will be discovered and taken care of immediately.
CNN is our biggest rival. They have just released an interesting segment which includes background information about the Ebola outbreak.
Ebola is one of the deadliest diseases in the world. Certain strains can kill 90% of those who catch it. More than 11,000 people have died from the virus, and it's infected more than 28,000. As devastating as this disease is, it's also inspired one of the most extraordinary achievements in medical history. During the largest Ebola epidemic ever, spanning from Liberia to Atlanta, the World Health Organization set out to develop the first vaccine for Ebola. Coordinating a massive international group of scientists and drug companies, the WHO seemingly managed the impossible. Cutting through regulatory red tape, the group collaborated to fast-track the vaccine. What usually takes a decade or more, this took just 12 months. We tend to see rapid development from places like Silicon Valley, tech giants holding all-night hackathons to fix a problem. But rarely do we see this type of speed from the medical community. But the hope is that the WHO has provided a blueprint for accelerating drug trials and research, so the medical community can react quickly the next time a killer virus strikes.
For tuning in to EDT News, we hope to see you next time. You too!
And you!